Again, if you're one of those liberal folks who stumbles on the show, you gotta just you're gonna have to just there's important information for you. All right, Uncle Joe is doing some ugly stuff. Uh, um,
Yeah. So the last time I was on the show, we talked about the good and bad and ugly that Biden was doing, and we gave Biden praise for some of the good things that he did. We talked about some of the bad things he did. We didn't really get deep into some of the ugly things Biden is doing. I have three that we have to talk about in detail. One of them has to deal with former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos.
Now you're telling me a little bit about this on break. This I didn't hear about this. This is nuts. Go ahead.
Uh, okay, so Betsy DeVos, for those who do not know, um, Betsy DeVos during the pandemic, it was when she was still Education Secretary. Courts said that students that were frauded by for-profit colleges like DeVry and some of those other, we've seen all those commercials for profit colleges where they act like they're accredited and they're not. Students that took out student loan debt for those uh, for profit colleges, the courts said they didn't have to pay their student loans. Betsy even went on record in the court findings saying that those colleges were not accredited and that the degrees and that the certificates that the students were getting were fraud. They were lied. They were lies. Right? So the courts ordered Betsy DeVos, and I'm in this story in particular, it was in Politico. Um, it was in Politico. It was in the AP. It was in the AP. It was in Politico, and the update to the story is actually in the Washington Post. Is that the Biden administration is choosing to protect Betsy DeVos from uh, from dealing with the consequences of her actions, because the courts told her not to garner so what's the coach told Betsy DeVos to that these students didn't have to pay their loans, right? Betsy DeVos not only still harassed those students to pay money that they didn't owe, she garnished the students' wages. For those who do not know what garnishing someone's wages is, that means every time you took a check, and you know how you get paid, right? You get paid, you get insurance taken out of your check, right? You got medical, vision, dental, right? Taken out of your check. When someone's garnishing your wages, that means a portion of your check is being taken for something else. These students were getting robbed by an education secretary to pay a loan that they did not own. The court said, "Yo, what are you doing? We told you not to do this." She did it anyway. The courts were going found her in contempt of court because she continued to do so. And this is where the story picks up. The Biden administration has the Biden uh, judiciary, his the Justice Department under the Biden administration have chose to protect Betsy DeVos from being in contempt of court. What is she being in contempt of court? What was she in contempt of court of? Garnishing people's wages who who had their wages, their money stolen from them to pay back a student loan debt that they did not owe. That is disgusting. The Biden administration is protecting the swamp.
I think I mean It sets a bad precedent too, because I think like there's a lot of discussion. I mean, there's still. I mean, we're in the middle of the second impeachment trial right now. You know, people talking about like some accountability for the crimes of the previous administration and others. Not now. Now, as we talked about on the show before, like you know, the Trump administration was a corruption bonanza. There is going to be so much from that administration that is not going to be held accountable. Like you know, like just even shrinking it down to just like what's going on with the insurrection coup is just a drop in the bucket compared to like the totality of impeachable offenses. And you know, it's not like Betsy DeVos is like a popular figure. Like who is it going to be divisive with if they go after Betsy DeVos? Like it's like I'm not hearing a lot of like QAnon people who are just like, oh, we got to protect Betsy DeVos. Like no, people in Michigan certainly ain't big fans of her. Like I ain't never heard no Michigan militia person being like, I will lay down my life for Betsy DeVos. Like most of the time, it's like that woman was terrible for education.
Man, okay, so but here's the thing. Here's the thing. So I know President Obama said, especially during the administration that Biden was a part of, that when it comes to crimes in the previous administration, we don't look backwards, we look forwards. I said it then that was garbage ideology, and I'm saying it now. This woman was robbing people. When you tell someone that they have to pay something that they don't own, they don't owe. They do not owe. That's robbery. That is a robbery, and she should be going to jail. She should. Their family owns 10 yachts. She has to give up at least 3. She has to give up at least 9 of them. You know what I'm saying? She has to get. She has to
like the worst people. Just like you know, even we didn't talk about this on the last show, but you know, Amazon recently got in trouble for stealing their drivers' tips. And again, you think it's like, why do some of the richest people in the world steal pennies from working class people? There's like some kind of weird effed up pathology there, man.
it's okay. So obviously Betsy, in my opinion, Betsy's worth a couple million. In my opinion, if we had some actual justice, I would have the courts say, Betsy,
Lawrence, what? I was gonna say, are you building up the anticipation? Lawrence's mic just muted. I'm not sure if he did that himself or.
hello.
Hello, you're back. Okay.
No, I had a phone call. So what I would do if there was any justice, I would say, hey, that money that you stole from those students, you have to pay back yourself. You have to pay back yourself. And I would if there was some actual justice in this country. But so that's the first story. Second story, when it comes to foreign policy, continuing the foolishness of the previous administration. This is also a story from the Associated Press and others. I forgot who it was that was in the briefing room, the White House press room. They asked the Biden administration about Venezuela, and their narrative is that Juan Guaido is the president of Venezuela when he hasn't been elected. Juan Guaido, for those who do not know, is the guy that the Americans are backing when they try to overthrow Venezuela's president, who we call a dictator. We call Maduro a dictator. And in many cases, if you believe a lot of the narrative around Venezuela, he is. Here's the problem, and this is the problem with most with most mainstream media that is never talked about or admitted. America supports 73% of the world's dictators. We're cool with dictators like in Saudi Arabia. We're cool with dictators who give Americans what they want when it comes to the international market. If it's cheaper oil, or in some cases when it comes to Central America, cheaper bananas. Not joking. That's a real thing. And if you there's a book that was talking about this, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I suggest everyone to read that book. But yeah, continuing this narrative that an unelected guy that America is backing is the rightful president when he was not elected. It's not a good look.
I think
It's not.
2 points to add to that. Like as we talked about before, the election in Venezuela, it's been combed over several times. I believe what is it? The Center for Something Democracy that Jimmy Carter set up, it detected like the elections were valid. I mean that's going back a couple of years, but I wanted to drill down on something. I remember I was talking about it a couple weeks ago, and I was getting all irritated, upset about it. One thing that's really important to understand is just like the disconnect here is, it's not even that like Biden is continuing this kind of same way Trump administration is looking at Venezuela. We are an outlier. Most of the rest of the world is recognizing that Juan Guaido not the president of Venezuela. In fact, even some of his erstwhile conservative allies have given up on it because it's like you were bad. You did not do a good job trying to coup your government. So we're gonna wait for something else to come along. Because like America's just that lone holdout. Like if we just say it enough, we can magic our way into it actually happening. Like even like the conservative parties down in Venezuela think Juan Guaido is a joke, and they want somebody else to take over, but not that dude. But like, just
yeah.
So that's how ridiculous it is.
So yeah. So we have Betsy, we have Juan Guaido, we have another foreign policy blunder that did not need to be a blunder. President Biden is refusing to get back into the Paris Climate Accords unless not the climate accords, the Iran nuclear deal. Our president is refusing to get back into the Iran nuclear deal if Iran does not hold to the deal first. That's the narrative that they were giving. Forgetting the fact that the previous president was the one that ripped up the deal. I don't understand that logic in any way, shape, or form. We messed up. we messed up. We have to take the L on that one. Yet you're gonna say, hey, the other party needs to do something for us first before we commit, is forcing an error where there doesn't need to be an error. Like it's bad. It's dumb. It's very dumb.
Like the obliviousness and arrogance, I guess I'd say, of like the kind of military industrial complex blob in Washington, where it's just like if you do the same thing over and over again, it's apparently going to work this time. But
yeah,
I think it's really important to bring up, the Iran nuclear deal, and like we rightfully criticize, imperialism and every president's track record on our show. But one of the most significant foreign policy accomplishments of the Obama administration was the Iran nuclear deal. And Joe Biden and any other candidate who ran last year was all about, I was like, I'm going to continue Obama's work. We're going to hit the reset button. And the idea that they're not trying a more conciliatory tone, given everything that happened under Trump. I mean, Trump like assassinated one of their main generals, like a mob hit, and we're just gonna, but like the Biden administration just wants to ignore that and be like, okay, well now y'all are just being childish because you won't do what we say, even though the last guy literally just like put out a mob hit on one of your most beloved leaders.
Yeah, like think about that. Think about that in under any other context. We screwed up, and this is the other thing. Okay, so first thought, their elections are coming up, right? Like Iran's elections are coming up, and the far right of the country, was saying we shouldn't get into the deal with America in the first place because their agreements aren't worth the paper that they're printed on. That's what the far right of Iran was saying. And they were proven correct with the next administration. So even if we were, the bad boyfriend that's trying to make up because we made a mistake with our ex, they have every right to say, why should we trust you? Yeah, they have every right to say, why should we trust you? Why should we get back in the deal? The best way for peace in that situation would be to be like, hey yo, look, that last dude, the last 4 years was just blatant incompetence by someone who did not understand what they were doing. I helped broker the deal for this. Remember, I helped broker the deal for this. I want this deal to work. I am sorry. We're not going to put more sanctions on you like the previous administration did. And as a matter of fact, we're going to take off some of those restrictions, and we're going to go back to the deal like we had it. I am sorry. Please forgive me. That's how we're supposed to handle that situation. That's not what's happening. Not in any way, shape, or form.
And it's interesting you bring up that point about election season. And it reminds me of just like there's this kind of like just incompetence with a lot. I mentioned like the blob earlier, and I'm reminded of like the Afghanistan papers where it's like the people that were planning this invasion like had like less than zero knowledge of what like society and politics were like on the ground there. And it's like to be belligerent in election season where, like you said, you've got a far right in Iran who are basically running on a America is full of crap platform. If you act in like kind of belligerence and bad faith, who do you think's going to win that election? You're giving them fuel. I mean, we've seen this in our own country with Trump, we've seen it with Brexit. I mean, so it's a little bit different because with like kind of the religious Islamic frame, but it's only ever so slightly. Instead of talking about like restoring Western civilization, you're talking about like protecting Islamic civilizations from like the evil West. And like the more evil the West acts, the more credence you give to that. And
yeah, so okay, so we're 0 for 4 right. We're 0 for 3 right now. So now I gotta go. Now I have to talk about the most ugliest thing that one of the ugliest things that the Biden administration is doing, and this is the last foreign policy thing. The Biden administration is still trying their best to go after Julian Assange with everything they have, with everything they got. There's no logical reason for them to do so outside of pure pettiness. For those who do not remember why they were going after Julian Assange, because of Chelsea Manning, released the helicopter video where Apache gunners shot into a crowd of civilians. The crowd of civilians were Reuters journalists and were just journalists and just civilians that they thought were enemies. They weren't. They then turned around and did what is known as a double tap. For those that do not know what a double tap is, that's when you turn around and you shoot the first responders. Obviously, the international community was livid about this when it happened back in 2000, I think 2010. America was obviously embarrassed. The military state was obviously embarrassed, but they did not care. They did not care. They locked up Chelsea Manning for giving it to Julian Assange. Julian Assange went into was already hated by most governments because of what he was doing, and yeah, they still want to expedite him for espionage charges, even though the courts have already said he shouldn't come to America because of how bad our criminal justice system is. British courts said that he should not be extradited to America because of how bad our court system is.
You know,
Because of how bad not how bad our court system is, how bad our jails are. Our jails are so inhumane that it would be cruel and unusual punishment for this man who has suicidal thoughts to come to America to face to be put in jail.
Well, you know what they say, Lawrence? America, we're number one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have one more actually that I'm thinking of. I mean, I have two more. I mean, but yeah.
Throw something out there about the Assange thing real quick for you. I think what's one thing that is pointed out, like, and we mentioned this with the Iran deal, but like this is another good example. The Obama administration had a terrible record with whistleblowers, but at the very least, the reason they never did what the Trump administration did is they understood that if you go after Assange for what they are currently going after him for, that could set up a dangerous precedent that would severely restrict press freedom. The Biden administration, who is supposed to be like the spiritual successor to that, I don't know. Did they just forget that? They were just like, well, this is our. It seems like opportunistic to me. It's like one of those things. Like, I wonder if we can get away with this if people aren't paying attention. But yeah, it is. It's not surprising, but it is extremely disappointing that the Biden administration is going forward with this prosecution on these merits, because it will have the same ramifications on press freedom as it did under Trump, and that is really, really alarming.
Yeah, that's bad. That's a bad. That is one of the worst things that I'm seeing this administration do. From obviously from a I'm biased. We're biased. We're political commentators. We can't do our jobs without journalists doing theirs, you know? But it is absolutely horrendous to see or think that, yeah, that this is okay. It's not okay at all. Like this only proves to show that when if the powerful is upset because of something horrifying that they did, they chose to let these gunners double tap civilians, and that they should get away with it. It is disgusting in every sense of the word. In every sense of the word, it's disgusting. And the fact that those gunners did not face judgment, but the person that leaked it, Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning, they did. That tells you everything that you need to know.
All right, Lawrence, did you say? Did you have more on?
Now, that's all for now. I mean, I have more, but you know, I'm not trying to ruin everyone's fit. I wanna talk about some other stories,
We
but
won't ruin
yeah,
everybody's brunch
it's
again. But
I don't want like I'm trying my best not to be that person all the time. And sometimes when you hear these stories, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But I want to laugh.
I'm gonna leave a quote, and then I gotta take a bathroom break. But
All right.
it reminds me of this quote. It's like a lot of people think that like, you know, people like us are just always cynical all the time. And I would counter that saying, I think it takes a great deal of optimism to imagine and think we can have a better world. That's great. And until next time, keep on fighting for that revolution solution.